My Jesus, I love thee. I know.
Greetings to the body of Christ worldwide. I am Brother Kenneth Ogra, a servant of God, called by God in this last day of this age, to bring his last warning to the general humanity of the imminent rapture of the church and the second coming of Christ Jesus. Beloved children of God, the message I'm bringing to you from God is an urgent one that needs your attention. It is a matter of life and death, if I may put it that way, so that you would understand the urgency and implication of the message. Beloved of God, almost all the signs Christ gave to the church, which he said would herald the rapture and his second coming, have come to fulfillment. They are numerous, but I shall be concentrating on one particular one in this message, which indicates that we are already in the very year of the rapture. This might seem to you like a word from one of those date setters who appear to be speaking from his mind. But you shall be convinced at the end of this message, as they say facts are undeniable, and that they speak for themselves. Just get prepared and listen carefully in order to get the message. I'm bringing this last warning of God from the perspective of the four blood moons of 2014 and 2015, which popular end-time preachers interpreted to be signs of the end time, but could not decode the time period between their appearances and the rapture they were designed to indicate or signify. But because the event of the rapture which those preachers gave us the impression would occur not too far from their appearances did not occur, as a result, Christians have put the issue behind them, thinking that they are mere heavenly signs which might not really have anything to do with the proximity of the rapture. But I shall be bringing up this issue again and present it from a metaphysical and esoteric perspectives, and understanding and prove the exact time period to the rapture of the church in code they were designed to signify. Remember that the Spirit of the Lord spoke about this through the prophet Joel in Joel chapter 2, verses 28 to 31, that this blood moon sign would occur at a very short time period to the time of the Great Tribulation, which means the event of the rapture is very close to the time of their appearances. And the Spirit of the Lord through the prophet made it clear that this sign would appear at the end part of this age, and at the time God would shake the heavens and the earth with events that would cause a lot of blood flowing and thick smoke billowing into the skies, with a great devastation and desolation. Remember that the period from 2014 and 2015, those blood moons appeared, was a period the monstrous ISIS and the affiliated groups around the world were very active. Then they spilled the blood of a great number of Christians. The uprising in the Arab world at that moment and the civil wars they brought about also caused much death and bloodshedding, great devastation and desolation, and pillars of smoke billowing into the skies from those wars during that period, fulfilling this aspect of the scriptures to the letter. The other aspect of that prophecy that is about to be fulfilled is the darkening of the sun. This is the final event designed to usher in the rapture at the end of a 3-day global darkness that is about to engulf the entire planet Earth at the end of the 3 spirit days of the secret world war, without any sign of such event coming and without the knowledge of our scientists. It is an event the Lord designs to take this generation unawares. This event of bewilderment and cataclysm meant to greet the sons of men on the day of the rapture was recorded in Joel chapter 2 and in Zephaniah chapter 1 verse 15. These had already happened, coupled with the present pandemic designed to wreck the economy of the world in order to make way for the Antichrist to come up. But in the midst of all these, the church is still saying it is well, and that nothing is happening. Christians all around the world, including merchant pastors, are currently busy praying for the end of this pandemic that was intended to fulfill scriptures and hoping to see its ends for things to continue as usual. But they knew it not that the event of the rapture is gravely close and is about to creep upon the church unawares. In several discussions I had with some Christians recently, including pastors, I was surprised to see that the present Laodicean church has no idea about what the last days is all about. And worse is the fact that most Christians don't even want the Lord to come now, not even 200 years' time, including those that the great spirit of hardship is sitting on their head. Currently, when you talk about the end time to some Christians, they will look at you as if you are an alien from another world. But whether the Christians of this generation know it or not, or believe it or not, the Lord is already here, just to say to his faithful ones, come up, is the next thing to happen. Certainly the church won't believe this, because the Lord in Matthew chapter 24 verse 44 said 2,000 years ago that she wouldn't know when he would come for her, and that it is that time she's not expecting him that he would come. And this is coming in this midnight hour of the church, where normal activities worldwide would never happen until the watchful, faithful ones of God with extra oil are taken away by the Lord. As a servant of God called by God to show and prove the very last events designed to usher in the rapture with incredible information and hard fact, and bringing this last warning of God to the church, proving that her time is up already. This the Lord had revealed, but Christians would never believe it on the platform of the opinion that even Christ, whom they believe is God, does not have the knowledge of that day of the day of the rapture. This opinion, which stands as a contradiction to their belief of whom Christ is, and this which is the result of mere speculation on the contents of the Bible, because God knows all things, regardless of the level or form and realm of his manifestation. Christ subtly concealed the time of the rapture to his disciples then in order to protect his mission on earth, because it could have cost him his salvational mission and work on the cross if he had told them that he's coming for the establishment of the kingdom, which they earnestly expected in their time or day would take another 2,000 years plus. So it is the area of the knowledge of the date of the rapture. This which the Lord in the day of the Old Testament implied through the prophet Amos in Amos chapter 3 verse 7, that it is very, very possible. And in Luke chapter 1 verse 37, one of the seven spirits of God in this regard said, with God nothing shall be impossible, with regard to the man Gabriel. Nevertheless, Christians see this to be an impossible thing because they do not fully understand God and the way he operates. This is reflected in Isaiah chapter 55 verses 8 and 9, where the Lord says clearly that his ways and his thoughts are different from those of man. With regard to this, one very important thing Christians do not know about God is that he keeps his plans secret only when the time for their fulfillment has not yet come. But when the time has come, he does release information concerning them. This he does in order to notify or warn his people ahead of time, because it is not in his character to take his people unawares when he's about to carry out his plans, especially the ones coming with judgment. This is evident in Amos chapter 3 verse 7, which says, for the Lord shall do nothing, but he revealed his secret to his servants the prophets. For example, God warned Adam of the forbidden fruit in the garden before him and his wife, Eve, fell as a result of not heeding that warning. He used Noah to warn his wicked generation for a period of 427 years before he destroyed it with the humongous flood waters. He warned the King Nebuchadnezzar of an impending judgment attracted by his pride, etc., before turning him into a human beast as a result of not heeding that warning. He warned Judah, that is southern kingdom of Israel, through the prophet Jeremiah of a 70-year captivity period before they went as a result of their stiff-neckedness, etc. Therefore, from the foregoing, it is evident that God does not keep secrets when it is time to carry out a major plan that goes with judgment, especially. It is on this basis that he has released information concerning the time of the rapture and other events before and immediately after it, because the time of these events of universal consequence has indeed come. See Daniel chapter 12 verse 4, and once again Amos chapter 3 verse 7 in this regard. He that hath an ear, let him hear. Now, I begin this warning message from here as revealed to me expressly by the Lord with facts that cannot be denied. The whole thing, that is the process of the rapture, said earlier, began with the 4 popular blood moons of 2014 and 2015. This, which unknown to many, has connection with the August 23, 2017 3-day solar eclipse over the nation of America, the Revelation 12:1-2 sign 5 signs in the heaven above, which configured over the nation of Israel in relation to the Jupiter Virgo sign and the 5th and 6th seals of judgment of Revelation chapter 6 verses 9 to 17. Though most Christians are unaware of the implication or significances of the 4 blood moons and their relationship with the other signs mentioned in relation to the rapture process, especially Christians in Africa and parts of the continent of Asia. Christians in North America and Europe at that time were aware of these signs and their implication to the time of the rapture. Then most who knew about those signs thought 2017 was the date for the events of the rapture. But I wonder that date wasn't the principal date for the rapture, based on information I had from the Lord concerning the time of its true occurrence, for its true time of occurrence. Many thought I was in a state of psychosis and wanted to crucify me for that, based on their claim that all scriptures and end time events, known and unknown to many people, have perfectly aligned for the rapture to take place not beyond that year. Some said I'm the only one in the Christian world opposing what they see then as a must come to pass event around that year. My argument with them and some facts I presented concerning the true time of these events are there on my Facebook page, The Trinity Code, from that period, that is from the year 2017. You can check them out. A popular American tele-evangelist, I wouldn't want to mention his name, and many others put the whole thing, that is those heavenly signs, together and formed a warning message on the proximity of the rapture, which they implied to be coming not beyond 2017 and 2018. Some of their books then sold millions of copies and became bestsellers. As a matter of fact, and as divinely revealed to me by the Lord, the 4 blood moons which appeared in 2014 and 2015, interestingly, on the day of the Feast of Passover, the first feast of the 7 Jewish feasts, and on the day of the Feast of Tabernacles, the 7th of the 7 feasts of the Jews, in both days, were designed by God to signify or signal the beginning of the last 7 years of the church age to the event of the rapture. I shall be proving this with hard facts as revealed to me by the Lord. Meanwhile, these last 7 years of the church age coincided with the 7-year period of the 5th and 6th seals of judgment, designed to work out the rapture process in relation to the Revelation chapter 12 verses 1 to 2 and 5 sign over the nation of Israel, same year. Naturally, the moon goes with the number 4 and the number 7 in terms of the 7 days times 4, which make up each one cycle period, that is 1 month period, and the 4 different levels of light of each 7 phases of light. Regarding the 4 blood moons and the wonderful Revelation 12 1 to 2 and 5 sign above, recorded in Joel chapter 2 verses 30 and 31 also, in relation to the bloody day preceding the day of the Lord, note that those blood moons signify the bloody period of the church at the time of the 5th seal, an event necessary for the release of the church of the 6th seal at the rapture, in accordance with cosmic principle relative to process of creation and emanation. You can see that in Revelation chapter 6 verses 9 through 11. This 7-year rapture process began in 2014 with the rise of the bestial terrorist groups of the Islamic Caliphate called ISIS at the beginning part of the 5th seal of death with the first blood moon. It was the platform on which the spirit of this process carried out that purposeful and inevitable harsh persecution and brutal death of the church, that is Christians, starting from that period. Regarding the death of the 5th seal church for the release of the 6th seal church, note, in the spirit, it is a principle that one or some must have to die for the release of one or some others that have been confined somewhere. This was behind the death of the 5th seal saints for the release of the 6th seal rapturable saints of God. This process began with God. It began with his 4th dimension, also known as his firstborn dimension, which had to die, that is transformed in spiritual interpretation, for the emanation, that is the release of his universal firstborn sons, with reference to the fundamental forces of heaven, in the light of his 7 spirits and Christ, and for the creation of all things from him. That process began way to the time the universe and entity called angels came to being. The reality of death for release or multiplication process is reflective in Christ's indicative statement in John chapter 12, verse 24. Then compare verse 33, where the reference was to his death, which brought about the release of the Old Testament saints long confined in the heart of the earth, which he used the death process of the seed of a corn and the subsequent multiplication of other seed from that died to describe. Meanwhile, on the basis of the modus operandi of God, with reference to repetition of all primordial phenomena and processes, the death process for the multiplication which began in the fourth principal dimension of God became principle for subsequent creation process. All of such or similar death process in the Bible were nothing but reenactments of that primordial birthing and creation process in one form or the other on the platform of principle. Let's see some example for confirmation of this divine revelation in relation to the death of the fifth seal Christians, which are first fruits of God for the rapture release of the sixth seal church, which is God's first fruit still. Now, let's see some examples. At the end of the 400-year period of the prophetic captivity of God's people in Egypt, the firstborn of all Egyptians had to die for the release of the firstborn national son of God from the land of 400-year confinement, with reference to the Hebrews or the Israelites as we know them. See Exodus chapter 4 verse 22 and compare it with Jeremiah chapter 2 verse 3 in relation to son and firstborn son recognition of Israel by God. Also Christ, the firstborn of God and first fruit of all creation, recorded in Revelation chapter 3 verse 14 and Colossians chapter 1 verse 5, had to die not only for the sins of the world but also for the release of the Old Testament saints confined in the womb of the earth for a very long period of time, when he resurrected with them in fulfillment of the feast of first fruits on the platform of that cosmic principle. This event did not just happen in a similar pattern by accident, but were reenactment of that primordial birthing and creation process in heaven from the death, that is, transformation of the mysterious firstborn dimension of God. The fifth seal, death of the sixth seal release, is coming on the platform of this principle. It was when the number of death of the fifth seal saints required by principle was complete that the 3.5-year period of the fifth seal terminated with the end of the vicious caliphate of the monstrous ISIS and its other affiliated groups all around the world in the year 2017 by the combined effort of many countries that dealt with them then. That was the date, that is the year, the August 21 sign of 3-day solar eclipse over America and the Revelation 12, 1-2 and 5 sign over Israel occurred, which continued the process in the last 3.5 years of the church age of the sixth seal, which is the rapture seal. You can go for the complete details of this rapture process in relation to the August 21, 2017 solar eclipse over America and the Revelation 12, 1-2 and 5 sign over Israel, and more astonishing end-time information in my book, The Trinity Code, and the accompanying rapture audio message having this information and more mind-blowing end-time information, etc. on my website, www.thetrinitycode.com. They are for free for a limited period for now, so hurry and get them before price tags are placed on them. Meanwhile, let me bring some factual examples of the number 4 and the number 7 going together and their end of time significance in relation to the 4 blood moons and the last 7 years of the church age, among other events. They were designed to herald. First, note that this phenomenon of 4 going with 7 in relation to countdown, etc., originated in God in relation to his 4 principal dimensions, which ended, that is, consummated his consummate tetramerous nature and his 7 spirits, which are his consummate ubiquitous power in the universal dimension of existence. In relation to this, remember that God is identified with his tetragrammatronic name, which has to do with 4 letters and the number 4. Then we all know that God has 7 spirits, which are substantial or substantive part of Him, also known as the Holy Spirit when addressed as one person. Now, the examples I shall be giving from an esoteric platform of knowledge will indeed prove to us the reality of the 4 blood moons going with and ushering in or signifying the last 7 years of the church age from the year 2014. Now, let's go. Though unknown to the sons of men, this age of man was designed to span a period of 7,000 years of 7 spirit days and 4 generations of 4 spirit days of 2,166 years as one generational period or spirit day times 4 between creation and the millennium. And the 7,000 year, that is the 7th spirit day, and the 4th generation, that is the 4th spirit day, commenced at the same point in the year 1999, with the last 35 years of this age from that point. This 4th generation, which was designed to conclude this age at the 7,000 year, is it God implied to Abraham in Genesis chapter 15 verse 16, to Moses in Exodus chapter 20 verses 5 and 6, both at the time of the 2nd generation, in relation to the end time generation Jews and the 144,000 respectively. Said earlier, the Jews identified the number 4 with God via his tetragrammaton name, and the Judeo-Christian theology identifies the number 7, symbol for completeness, with him also. Now, notice, in the 10 commandments, the 4th speaks of the 7th-day Sabbath. Also, the 7 spirits of God has a group of 4 special ones to God. The special group of 4 was the first to emanate from God from the primordial process of death for the release in the 4th principal dimension of God during the first 7 primordial days in heaven before the creation of the universe, an entity called angel. In continuation, note that the headquarters of the 7 principal kingdoms of God in heaven is located in the 4th kingdom, and its second and upper part, same is the pattern of the 7 principal kingdoms of Satan under this reality. Notice that the 7 Gentile empires of biblical reckoning have the last 7, and specifically the 4th ending this age, seen in Daniel chapter 2 verses 40 to 44, and the 4th is yet the 7th, seen in Revelation chapter 17 verse 10. And this 4th kingdom is coming to an end this 7,000 year and 4th generation from creation, from the year 1999. Note, generally every sun has 7 cycles having to do with the period of its day, and all the 900 million peculiar suns in existence in their respective tabernacle and galaxy, recorded in Psalms chapter 19 verses 4 to 6, make 4 movements of rotation and revolution to the center of the universe at the 7th but the 4th kingdom of heaven, known as the end part of heaven, with the number 4 or the ordinal 4 as its numerical and mystical or cosmic symbol. In further example of this phenomenon and spiritual reality, notice that the 4 living creatures of God and his 7 spirits as his priests are the only ones standing before and around his throne in the innermost circle of the location of his throne, seen in Revelation chapter 4 verses 5 and 6. This same God exists in 4 distinct dimensions, which are his principal dimension of existence, and he goes with his 7 spirits, which are one with him. Another example of the number 4 and 7 going together is the 7 Jewish feasts, which have the first of its first 4 part concluding the religious year of the Jews. Another example of this is the 4th day of the 7th day of creation, which ended the period of darkness and brought about days of light. Then see another example. This 4th generation that we are now, which began in the year 1999, was designed to end the captivity of God's people under Satan in this age and usher in the millennial day of light in this 7,000 year from creation, just as it were in the day of the forefathers of the Jews, with reference to the 400th year of their stay in Egypt, ending their captivity in the same, and the 400 year of darkness between the testaments, ending with the birth of light of the world, that is Christ, on the day of the seventh feast of the Jews. For one example of this, notice that when the 400-year captivity of the Hebrews in Egypt expired, they had 70-year period measuring to the time they finally conquered and settled down in the promised land, with reference to the land of Canaan. Now, note this. Unknown to man, the last part of this age was planned to experience 4 world wars. 4 world wars, yes, 4 world wars. The third, which is ongoing secretly and has almost elapsed, spanned the period of the 6th seal, 21-year period, while the 4th world war, the sons of men know as the Great Tribulation, was determined to span the 7-year period of the trumpet and verse of judgment. Together, they equal 28 years of 4 years times 7. The 4th World War, designed to conclude this age in this 7,000 year from 1999. Now, also note this. The secret Third World War commenced on Earth with the September 11 attacks on America, but it commenced 2 years earlier in the realm of the spirit on September 11, 1999, which was the beginning point of the 7,000 year from creation, which coincided with the New Year Day of the Jews at the beginning of their 7th month. Confirm this date of the New Year Day of the Jews in their 7th month in 1999, occurring on September 11, in relation to the beginning of the 7,000 year, which the prophet Nostradamus also spoke about over 500 years ago, regarding the end or the conclusion of this age from the 7th month of the year 1999. Meanwhile, September 11 in this 4th generation and 7,000 year from creation also displays these numbers, that is, the number 7 and the number 4, which are symbols for end or completion, in terms of 11 being the sum of 4 and 7. And the September 11 attacks on America in this 7,000 year were carried out with 4 planes, also signifying the hand of God in that event. Meanwhile, for further confirmation of the commencement of the secret Third World War from the year 1999, see page 24 of the book entitled The Greatest Revelation of Our Time, Volume 1, by the popular Professor Ike Nathan Uzoma. Further in this example, in his book entitled A Day of Darkness, Lambert Okafor wrote that the Lord showed him in a vision this earth represented by a massive building tilted to 45 degrees, and that at the 45th degree it had collapsed to the ground abruptly. That was in the year 1992. The 46th degree measures 7 years to the beginning of the end of this age at 1999, which was the beginning of 7,000 year and 4th generation from creation. And that same date, that is the year 1999, measure 4 degrees of 7 times 4 years to the end of the last 7 years of the church age from the beginning of the appearances of the 4 blood moons in this 7,000 year and 4th generation, which measured to the date of the rapture. Let's see more examples. In the day of Noah, the last 7-day period given him by God, count down the period of grace and ushered in the 40 days and 40 night reign of 4 spirit days, the same as 4 cycles, which wiped out that ungodly generation completely. Christ made a reference to that event in Matthew chapter 24, verses 37 to 39, in relation to the last 7 years, that is, the last 7 spirit days to the rapture, from the date of the appearances of the 4 blood moons. In regard to this, note, in the spirit, 40 is reckoned as 4 because the 0 there is seen as additive. Let's see another example. The forefathers of the Jews had the 40th year of their wilderness experience, ending that journey, and the 70th year ending their struggle at their capture of the promised land from their enemies and settling down in it. Also, 40 years ended that wilderness journey, and 7 days count down to the fall of the walls of Jericho for their onward journey. Also, under this reality and principle, Notice that the United Kingdom of Israel came to an end at the time of her fourth king, King Rehoboam. And it is this 7,000 year from creation that shall see the end of that of the division of the nation of Israel and our restoration during the millennial era in this fourth generation and 7,000 year from creation. Further in this example, notice that Christ resurrected the seventh day of his last 7 days of preparation to his death and ascended the 40th day from his resurrection. Now, in the spirit, 40, 400, 4,000, and so on are reckoned as 4, that is, 4 spirit days, just as 70, 7,000, and so on are reckoned as 7 spirit days. So when you hear of 40, 400, 70, and 7,000, know it that it stands for 4 and 7 days respectively, just as the number 4 and 7. Let's see more examples of this reality. America is the fourth and last Babylonian nation or empire on earth, which is the fourth largest nation also. Her days were determined to come to an end in this 7,000 year and fourth generation from creation. She was spiritually born by the Babylonian Empire, which was the fourth of the 7 Gentile empires of biblical recognition, which is at the same time the 7th. The Bible in Jeremiah chapter 50 verse 12 projects America prophetically as the last nation, that is empire implied, of this age, and she has only 252 years for her lifespan, which shall end in a total destruction in this 7,000 year, that is 7th spirit day from creation. When you divide these 252 years by 7, you have 36, and when divided by 4, we have 63, which also reflect the number 3 and 6, but in reverse order. In this 7,000 year, America has only 4 presidents to the end of her day. The fourth is her last president of her history by principle. The first tenure of this president shall elapse in 2024. The first tenure of this president shall elapse in 2024 at the division of Jerusalem, which is coming at the 4th 7 years from the beginning of 7,000 year and 4th generation in 1999. Meanwhile, the 4th year period of the tenure of her 45th president coincided with the end of the 7 years of the beginning point of this 4th series of the blood moons from the year 2014. And the end of this 7 year period of the 4 blood moons in 2020 measure 4 degrees or 4 times 7 years from 1992. The earth tilted to 45 degrees as shown to the man of God brought to our notice earlier. In continuation of this, note the last pope of this age from South America, which is the 4th largest continent of the world, who was the first and is the last from the last now from outside the continent of Europe, was elected to office in this 4th generation in the year 2013 and has only 7 years to rule the kingdom of this world, with reference to the last 7 years of this age with the 4th beast of prophecy. Let's see one more example of 4 and 7 going together in relation to end of time period, in relation to end of a time period for the beginning of another. The 4th and last Babylonian nation, with reference to America, was destined to pluck 3 horns of the prominent 7 Gentile empires or kingdoms of Daniel's prophecy to the rapture of the church, all within this 7,000 year and 4th generation. The third and the last, which is Iran, known in the ancient times as Persia, in this present phase of our history is presented prophetically as the 4th king. You see that in Daniel chapter 11 verse 2. Their encounter, which is prophetically pictured in Daniel chapter 8, shall be coming in this 7,000 year at the end of the 7 years of the 4 blood moons. At the end of the 4 blood moons, we are intended to measure to the rapture. This encounter precedes the rapture with a very short time period, as divinely revealed. Let's stop here. This we have seen, I should believe, is enough for the confirmation of the position, that is significance, of the 4 blood moons in this last day, which came in this 4th generation and 7,000 years from creation, in terms of them coming or pointing to the last 7 years of the church age from their beginning points, as 4 and 7 go together, as we've just learned. Their connection with the number 7 is also evident in their appearance within the 7th month period of the Jewish feast in 2014 and 2015, and their appearances at the beginning of the first 4 feasts and at the 7th feast of the last 3. And another amazing thing about them is that while they appeared on the day of the feast of Passover, first feast, and on the 14th day of the first month of the Jewish calendar, and on the day of the feast of Tabernacles, the 7th feast, and beginning from the 15th day of the 7th month, they also came in Passover year, that is in 2014, and in Tabernacle year, that is in 2015, from the beginning of the 7,000 year from creation. These are no coincidences, but a divine ordering by God in relation to the conclusion of the church age and this age generally, as we can see. Therefore, prepare yourself for the rapture, which evidently is gravely close. Remember, this is an excerpt from the book The Trinity Code. For comprehensive information on this end time and more, see the book itself. For any question concerning this revelation and for information concerning the book, The Trinity Code, and the accompanying rapture audio message with more incredible information about the rapture and other mysterious things about God and this present time we are in, you can contact me through Facebook at Kenneth Ogra or my Facebook page, The Trinity Code. You can also email me with my email address, kennethogra53@gmail.com, or call these numbers, +234 811 3313834, +234 9055 788 773. Get copies of this audio message and the ebook on my website for free, and send some copies to your loved ones, family members, and friends to also get them prepared for the imminent rapture. Remember, the offer is for a limited period, so hurry now and get your copies before price tags are placed on them. Remain rapturable. God bless you.